Welcome back. Our next guest is Judge Omar Mason. Judge Mason is judge of the Orleans Parish Civil District Court Division E. He is currently assigned to Domestic Relations Section 1 of the Civil District Court, where he presides over family court matters, ranging from divorce and custody to child support and community property partition. Judge Mason earned his Juris Doctor degree from Loyola University School of Law in New Orleans in 1999. Prior to assuming the bench in January 2019, Judge Mason enjoyed a 19-year career as an attorney practicing law in a wide variety of areas, including but not limited to plaintiff personal injury, class actions, complex litigation, and business litigation in Louisiana and Texas. Judge Mason, thank you for being on the show. Thanks for being here today, and welcome back. Well, you actually did another show with me.
I did, yes.
Not too long ago, a couple of years back.
A few years ago, yes.
Okay.
Thank you for having me, John. I appreciate the opportunity to share with the folks.
Well, you're the sitting judge.
Yes.
You have an opponent. She's on the same show with us. People on this same show describing her story, but now it's time for you to tell your story.
Sure.
And let's get right to those questions, shall we?
Sure.
All right, let's do it. So first question, please tell us a little more about your background and experience that you believe sets you apart from your opponent as the better qualified person to serve as judge. And what about your past suggests you will serve this community well in the future in the role as judge?
Yes, and thank you very much again for the opportunity, John, to be here. And I thank you for allowing me to share my experience with the folks of New Orleans. I'm from New Orleans, born and raised, matriculated through the public school system. And one thing that I pride myself on is the fact that I care a lot for the folks, the people of the city of New Orleans. I care a lot for New Orleans. 2 years ago, when I decided to run for this position, I knew that New Orleans deserved a judge who would not just sit on a bench, but would stand up to ensure that justice for all is a reality for all. And I take that very seriously as far as my background is concerned. I felt that it was a need. I felt that it was something that I had the skill set and the background and the experience to be of service to the citizens of New Orleans. So that's why I decided to run for this seat less than 2 years ago. I had, as you mentioned in the intro, I have over 19 years of civil litigation experience, ranging from plaintiff's personal injury cases. I was involved, you may think I was a baby at the time, but I was actually involved on the plaintiff's trial team for the Louisiana tobacco class action litigation with some pretty stellar lawyers to see in action and to be side by side with in action. So I've done that, and I've done a number of years in the business litigation arena, commercial litigation representing businesses large and small. I've done everything from successions work to real estate closings for different entities and different individuals. I've kind of covered the gamut in the civil arena.
And I'm sorry for interrupting.
No problem.
And as it turns out, these are all cases that many of them end up. They can be litigated in Orleans Parish civil courts as well.
Yes.
Correct. Maybe not in the domestic or the family court.
Yes.
But it's something that you had experience in civil district court handling those types of cases.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And also the domestic. Of course, I've been handling the domestic docket since I was elected in 2018, and I've done exclusively the domestic docket. However, the seat that I hold is not a permanent domestic seat. I will be transitioning over into the general civil docket, handling more of the matters that I've handled during my 19-year career in the litigation arena.
So it's important your experience in areas that are not domestic. Is that what you're suggesting? Okay, thank you for explaining that.
And it's been helpful. My experience in evidence and procedure, those have been invaluable to my time on the domestic docket, because those are things that are across the gamut, across the board. And I find myself very, even though I did very little domestic, if at all, in my practice, for the last year and a half, I've been doing exclusively domestic, and my and I would not be able to do what I do currently had it not been for my experience in the general civil litigation arena, knowing evidence, knowing procedure, and things of that nature. Those are very important tools to have as a sitting judge. And so I found those very, very beneficial in helping me make the transition very smoothly into the domestic docket.
Okay. Thank you for that answer. Next question. What do you think is the most important role that a civil district court judge plays in our community? And how do you believe you are qualified or best qualified to fulfill that role?
Yes, well, and that's a great question. As you can see in what's going on in the world today and in this country in particular, there's an apparent erosion of faith and confidence in government. And of course, the judicial branch is a very important factor in government, the third branch of government, the judicial branch. And I think that folks in the Orleans Parish in particular need that reassurance that the government is going to be there for them, not to just rely solely on the government, but understand that the government is not going to be bought and sold. Folks who are elected to positions such as judge, especially, it's a position of honor and dignity and respect, and it's something that I carry with me very seriously my years of my entire life. I've developed my character, my temperament, and my integrity. And folks who come before you have serious matters of high consequence that I take very seriously. And folks want a judge who is going to be there when there's time for them to be heard in court, to have that judicial temperament, to give them the opportunity to be heard. And one thing I can assure you in my year and a half on the bench is that everyone who's appeared before me has been afforded more than a fair opportunity to be heard, whether they win, lose, or draw when it's all said and done. And I think that folks have a respect for that in the community. And that's what needs to be emphasized. That's what needs to be restored. I think public education is a huge thing for me, so that there won't be so much apathy towards the whole process of government, and particularly electing individuals to serve in elected positions, especially in the judicial branch. And you'll see in history, low turnout elections, or if they go down ballot, it tapers off when you come to the judicial elections. And I try to rebut that as much as possible when I go out in public. The best opportunity to have to speak to the public, of course, because of my docket and everything else that's going on, is during this process, the campaign process, and getting out and getting into forums, getting into forums such as this, to be able to educate the public about that, so that folks can know what's going on in the courts and have a better understanding, so they can have a better appreciation for it.
Right. Well, we certainly do appreciate how important it is that people participate in the process. They don't lose faith and they vote. Let's get to the next question. Do you believe that all citizens have adequate access to legal help in our legal system? If not, what do you think could be done, or what should be done in order to provide them wider and better access?
Yes, and we have a good system set up in Orleans Parish, particularly when it comes to the domestic docket. I would say there's a self-help desk that's manned by volunteer attorneys to help individuals who come in with domestic violence issues, for instance, protective orders. We handle a great deal of protective orders, from domestic abuse protective orders to stalking protective orders. And in the domestic abuse context, there are legal services basically to help them fill out the form, the Louisiana Protective Order Registry form, so that they can navigate that system. Another benefit is that the costs associated with filing protective orders are deferred. So there's no upfront costs. That's to avoid having folks feel uncomfortable filing protective orders because they don't have the financial resources to file them. But as far as access to justice and legal representation, that's an ongoing problem, of course, as I'm sure you're very familiar with. I preside over numerous cases involving pro se litigants, individuals representing themselves. And one thing that I try to do is whether the other side, one side is represented by counsel and the other side isn't, I'll always make it a point to explain what the process is, explain how we're going to proceed that day, and so that even the folks without legal representation understand. And I think judges can play a key role in that, in making sure that the playing field is leveled, so to speak, with or without representation, so that the litigants can be comfortable when they come to court, in knowing that their rights are going to be protected.
Okay, thank you for explaining that answer. Next question, and we're starting to run short on time here, but maybe you could answer this question fairly briefly. Is there anything that you would like to share or let our viewers know that I haven't already touched on in the first couple of questions?
Yes, the civil law docket, which is what I'll be transitioning to, is going to be something that's even more aligned with what I've done in the past, and that's what I'll be transitioning, because we have a seat that's open in the Civil District Court. That's going to be the newest judge is going to be elected. For those who don't understand the process, there's three divisions that handle the 3 domestic dockets currently. 2 of those positions are designated domestic divisions. Any person who runs for those seats are going to be on the domestic docket.
And that's not one that you're on.
That's not the one that I'm on. I'm on the third docket, which is the new, because I'm the newest judge in Civil District Court. So we have another seat that's in Division I, which will have an election November 3rd as well, that will be filled by that. And so I'll be transitioning to the general civil law docket. However, and that's where I have most of my background and experience. But like I said, the last year and a half that I've been on the domestic docket has been very rewarding. I think it's even though you may say it's like a hazing tactic maybe for the newest judges, but I've withstood that. And one thing that I pride myself on again is knowing the law, being qualified. I'm very well qualified in knowing the law. I find myself in a position every time I turn around where I just, no matter how much preparation I do, I have to make judgment calls on the spot, and I'm prepared to do that and continue to do that to serve the people of New Orleans as I promised to do.
All right, we're just about out of time, but why don't we take the last 30 seconds and why don't you let our viewers know what your ballot number is and your website address?
Yes, thank you. My ballot number is number 73, so going down the ballot, and my website is www.okmasonforjudge.com. That's www.okmasonforjudge.com.
All right, very good. Well, thank you again, Judge Mason, for being on the show and letting us know more about you and your experience and your hopes and plans for the future. If the viewers decide to hire you back again for another term on the bench, after this short break, we will return to the candidates for the next segment for the candidates for 24th Judicial District Court, Division H, Donald Chick Foray and Jerry Smith. Our first guest will be Mr. Foray. We will be right back.